At the beginning of the drama, we are shown a scene of a place where a little girl whose name is Gia is going somewhere with her family by car, and because it's the girl's birthday, her parents also give her a gift. Then, on the way, suddenly darkness spreads all around, and in no time they have an accident, where the car overturns and falls on the road. When the girl regains consciousness, she sees that she and her parents are hanging upside down in the car. After that, she's calling someone for help when she sees two people passing by. Those two suddenly come near her and look down, seeing which Gia screams loudly, because those two are her mom and dad. Just then, Gia's sleep breaks, and she sees her dad sitting beside her, and her mom is in the kitchen. Then she realizes it was just a dream. Then she hugs them. But then, her eyes fall on a toy, which is broken in the same way it was in the accident. Then she also sees bloodstains on her clothes, which were from the accident. Gia tells her mom, "I want to eat walnut cookies," after which her mom goes to the kitchen and starts looking for cookies. Gia also goes after her, and from there, picks up a pair of scissors and hides it behind her back and asks her mom, "I am allergic to walnuts. Then why is my mom looking for cookies for me?" To which her mom says, "I forgot because of tiredness." Gia says, "My mom can never forget that I am allergic because my mom is a doctor." Then Gia attacks that lady with the scissors, and that lady strangles Gia. Then Gia, to save her life from those two, runs to her room and locks the door tightly. Those two come after her and start banging on the door loudly. When the door doesn't open, they break the lock, due to which Gia, scared, goes to another corner and hides, closing her eyes. After some time, Gia opens her eyes and sees a man standing there holding a red umbrella, who, looking at Gia, asks, "Are you Oum?" And then he does magic on her. But then he says, "You are not Oum." Then that man sits down and tells Gia, "Forget whatever you have seen today, or I will kill you." Now, we are shown a scene 21 years later where we see the same man who carries a red umbrella, who is also the male lead of this drama, and his name is Lee Yan. Outside, it's raining, where people are talking about how there was no information in the weather forecast that it was going to rain, hearing which Lee Yan says, "This is happening because today foxes are getting married." Then Lee Yan goes inside and meets a bride. Lee Yan says, "After eating so many people's livers, how can she be happy? She has to die today." To which that girl tells Lee Yan, "I too once fell in love with a human." Then that girl attacks Lee Yan with her nails, which Lee Yan evades and places a sword on her neck. There, that girl tells Lee Yan, "I just want to see my love one last time." Just then, a lady comes to call that girl. Meanwhile, on the other side, we see the drama's female lead, Gia, who is a director at an urban mines company. She was working on an animal research project. Here, Lee Yan is attending the wedding ceremony. Meanwhile, Gia has also come to the wedding to collect information. Now, after the wedding ceremony ends, a fierce fight breaks out between Lee Yan and that girl, in which we find out that Lee Yan is a nine-tailed fox who kills evil foxes. And then that bride's body disappears into thin air. Only her wedding dress remains there. Outside, a crowd gathers, and they think the bride has run away from the wedding. In between, Gia's eyes fall on Lee Yan, and she thinks, "I have seen him somewhere before." After that, Lee Rang and Gia inspect that girl's wedding dress, where she asks Lee Rang, "Why would any girl leave such a luxurious life and run away from her wedding?" Then Gia, showing Lee Rang the bloodstains on the dress, says, "This girl must have had a scuffle with someone." After that, Gia tells Lee Rang, "Bring the CCTV footage." After he leaves, Gia finds some hair on the dress, about which the forensic expert says, "Those are red fox hairs." But Gia says, "But they are now extinct." He says, "We started a fox restoration project, and if a fox is hungry, it can reach anywhere." To this, Gia says, "Those foxes have GPS trackers on them, so no fox can come there." After Gia leaves, that forensic expert, scared, is calling someone on the phone. Then Lee Yan goes from there to the Afterlife Immigration Office, where he meets a lady. There, we see that lady is also a fox, and Lee Yan has been working for her for 6 years. Lee Yan asks that lady, "Until when will I have to kill foxes?" Hearing this, that lady takes his contract in her hand and talks about burning it with her magic. So Lee Yan says, "Oh, you took offense. I was just kidding." Now at night, Gia, according to the location told by a boy, comes to a bus stand. In the bus, Gia's eyes fall on Lee Yan. She chases the bus, but cannot stop it. Then she quickly gets into a taxi and goes after that bus, where she sees that the bus has had an accident. And it's the same place where her parents had an accident 21 years ago, and they had disappeared. Gia goes into the bus and sees that everyone is dead, but one girl, Su-yo, is still alive. Meanwhile, Lee Yan is walking away injured. Su-yo is taken to the hospital, where Gia tells the detective there was one more man on this bus. Now in the hospital, Su-yo regains consciousness, where Gia shows her Lee Yan's photo. Seeing which, Su-yo says, "He came to kill me." After that, Lee Yan comes to the hospital to see Su-yo, where Gia also sees him, and then talks to him. But Lee Yan doesn't tell her anything properly. Meanwhile, from his voice, Jia feels that she knows him from before. Then Jia tries very hard to get his fingerprints, but Li Yan doesn't touch anything, nor does he tell his name when Jia asks. Then Jia throws her bag to Li Yan and says, "My visiting card is in this." But Li Yan says, "I don't need this," and leaves from there. But we see that Jia has cleverly taken his fingerprints. Now at night in the hospital, Su-yo wakes up screaming loudly. Jia immediately runs to her. Su-yo slowly whispers in Jia's ear, "If you stay here, you will die." After which, Jia takes her to her home. And in the hospital, when Li Yan doesn't find Su-yo, he angrily sets out to find her. Now at home at night, Jia suddenly gets scared seeing Su-yo in front of her. After which, Su-yo tells her about the night of the accident. She says, "That day, suddenly the bus lights went off, and I saw that everyone was dead, and that man with the red umbrella was about to kill me too, but somehow, I survived." But the real story was that Su-yo was also a fox, and when the bus was passing through the tunnel, she had killed everyone. After which a fight breaks out between her and Li Yan, and Li Yan gets injured. Knowing this, Jia tells Su-yo, "Everything will be all right now." Meanwhile, a glass falls down, and then Jia, while picking it up, asks Su-yo, "Where were you going so late at night?" To which she replies, "I was going to my house," and Jia places a piece of glass on her neck. Su-yo starts laughing and changes her form. Now she was about to attack Jia when Li Yan arrives, and showing Jia an address written on a page says, "I told you before that we two would never meet." After which a fight ensues between Li Yan and that boy, and we find out that he was Li Yan's brother. Meanwhile, all this is being recorded on camera because Jia had installed cameras throughout the house. After that, Li Yan's brother, while leaving, makes a bet with him. "If you can't find that girl, I will kill Jia." Now Jia comes closer to Li Yan and asks him, "Who are you?" At which Li Yan shows magic with his eyes. Li Yan asks her, "Do you remember everything?" To which Jia says, "Your magic doesn't work on me, and I have the original footage, and if you want it, come and get it." Just then, Jia jumps down from the balcony. Li Yan also jumps down to save her. And after coming down, Jia finds out that he is not human, and Jia says, "I was waiting for you." Then she takes out a pendant and puts it around his neck. Then we are shown about Li Yan's past life. One day, Li Yan is sleeping under a tree. When a girl comes to him and starts stroking his head, Li Yan's eyes open, and he asks her, "Do you want to die?" To which the girl says, "I thought you would like it." Li Yan asks, "Do you even know who I am?" To which that girl says, "Yes, you are a fox." Then that girl also tells about herself. She is Aum, and she had a red umbrella with which she used to come to meet Li Yan every day. Days passed, and Aum and Li Yan fell in love with each other. But one day, someone kills Aum, and a lady is taking her spirit to its destination in a boat. Li Yan runs after her and freezes the water. But because Aum is a spirit, Li Yan cannot stop her. Li Yan goes to her and says, "Be reborn, and I will find you." Then Li Yan leaves a fox bead in her mouth. The scene comes to the present. Li Yan opens his eyes. Jia asks him for help. Li Yan tells her, "I am a nine-tailed fox." Jia asks him, "Why did you save Jia 21 years ago?" Li Yan says, "Jia's face resembled the girl I was looking for, but unfortunately, Jia was not that girl." Jia asks, "Then what happened to my parents?" Because their bodies were never found, and now Li Yan is her only last clue. Li Yan says, "I have no interest in finding your parents." Jia, showing him a pen drive, says, "No one knows Li Yan's truth, so it would be better if Li Yan helps find her parents." At this, Li Yan, with his magic, blinds one of Jia's eyes and says, "Before threatening someone, understand how powerful you are yourself." Jia says, "I am not scaring you, just taking my chance." Then, putting the pen drive in T, she says, "If a fox is under someone's favor, it definitely repays it. When her parents are found, she will forget everything." Li Rang goes to the immigration office and checks, and then he meets Jia at a restaurant. Li Yan says, "Jia's parents' names are not even on the death list." Hearing this, Jia becomes very happy and asks, "So, where are they then?" Li Yan says, "I don't know." Jia stops him and asks for help. Li Yan says, "We are from different worlds." Jia says, "I won't come in your way, just don't disappear." Then it is shown that Jia and Li Yan go to that island where some people had found a skull because Jia thinks, "Maybe I will find some clue about my parents there." Li Yan sees that it is the same island where he and Aum used to live. The next day, Li Yan tells some ladies, finding a skull there was not the first time. Many skulls had been found before. Meanwhile, a man comes running. Jia also runs after him. Just then, that man attacks Jia with a hammer, but Li Yan comes in between and the hammer hits him. Li Yan starts beating that man, but Jia stops him, and that man runs away from there. Then Li Yan is applying medicine to Jia's wound, but he sees that her wound is burning like fire. Meanwhile, Jia grabs Li Yan's neck and says, "I've seen you after so many days." Li Yan asks her, "Who are you?" Jia says, I am the one you were waiting for, and asks Li Yan, why did you kill me? Meanwhile, Li Rang comes to a sealed well in the jungle, and a lady arrives there. They both talk about reviving the spirit of some animal trapped in that well, for which they will have to offer a human sacrifice. The lady says, if that animal is revived, Li Yan will not be spared either. Then she asks him, why do you hate your brother so much? To which Li Rang reveals, Li Yan loved me very much, but one day he murdered me. Here, Li Yan tells Jia, leave that island, because now your life is also in danger. But Jia refuses. In the next scene, we see the same jungle lady, who is sitting on the seashore and preparing for black magic by putting up white flags. In the next scene, Li Yan is on the island with Jia, when he suddenly picks up a stone and throws it backward, because Li Rang had come to harm Jia. He attacks Jia with stones, but Li Yan saves her. He tells Jia to run away from there immediately. Then a fight ensues between Li Rang and Li Yan. While running, Jia sees a house which belongs to that same lady. Jia shows the lady her parents' photo and makes inquiries. That lady lies about her parents, but Jia understands that she is lying. That lady makes Jia unconscious with the smell of an incense stick. Meanwhile, Li Rang gets tired of fighting, and he tells Li Yan that he kept him busy so that Jia could be caught and sacrificed. Li Rang says, now you have very little time. If you can save Jia, then show it. Meanwhile, that lady creates a magical circle of fire around the well. She takes Jia near the well and starts pushing her. Meanwhile, Li Yan arrives there, but he is unable to go inside that magic circle. Now Li Yan gets angry, and his 9 tails come out. He uses his power to make it rain there, which washes away the circle of fire. Li Yan is so angry that he kills that lady by striking her with lightning, and then saves Jia from falling into the well. After that, Li Yan ties a handkerchief on Jia's hand injury and carries her in his arms. Jia asks him, why do you save my life every time? What is it about me that you are looking for? And just then, Li Yan starts remembering Aum. Jia thanks him and says, one day I too will protect you. In the next scene, we hear a baby crying on the island. Li Rang hands that baby to a man, and this baby is none other than that Imugi. In the next scene, Li Rang goes to meet Li Yan, where Li Rang takes out a dagger and says, if you want to stop me, then kill me right now, just like you killed me before. Then we are shown a past scene in which Li Rang is mercilessly killing many people. Just then, Li Yan calls him from behind. Seeing Li Yan, Li Rang becomes very happy because he had seen Li Yan after a long time. Li Rang runs and hugs him and says, I missed you a lot. Li Yan pats his head. Then Rang tells him, after you left, people set fire to the mountain. It was so hot and scary that I couldn't control it and started killing people. Li Rang laughs and says, I finished off the entire village. Hearing this, Li Yan becomes very sad and unwillingly has to strike him with a sword. The scene returns to the present, where Li Rang says, I survived that day because Li Yan had missed the vital point. Now Li Yan goes to Talupa, where she is scolding him for killing the human lady, and Talupa is about to give him punishment. To this, Li Yan says, I am ready to suffer the punishment. After this, Li Yan goes to Jia's house. Then Jia says, I have arranged this dinner today because Li Yan saved my life twice. And then she starts stroking Li Yan's head. Li Yan says, what are you doing? To this, Jia says, doing so makes animals feel good, that's why. And right there, Li Yan starts remembering Aum. In the next scene, Jia tells Li Yan that she is going to the funeral home, where Li Yan forbids her from going there because he believed that evil spirits might follow her. And then Li Yan also tells her that he will not be in town for a few days. Jia says, are you going on a trip? Li Yan says, you can assume so. After which Li Yan gives her a small bag of beans and says, you have to keep this with you everywhere. Jia says, thanks to him and leaves from there. Meanwhile, Li Rang tells Jia, you are Aum's reincarnation, and that's why to save you, Li Yan had killed the jungle lady, for which he is currently suffering punishment. And Jia understands that Li Yan has not gone on any trip, but to suffer punishment. There we see that Li Yan is suffering his punishment on a snow mountain. Jia asks Li Rang, where is Li Yan? To which he says, you don't need to know this. And while leaving, Li Rang magically cuts Jia's small bag, due to which all the beans fall out. Meanwhile, the security guard sees many children around Jia on CCTV, but in reality, no one is there. Jia starts to leave from there, and 2 little girls also start following her. Jia is going through the corridor when all the lights go off and those 2 little girls appear in front of her. They both tell Jia, we are looking for our dad. But in reality, they are both spirits, and Jia does not know this. Now Jia is going home when she sees that her small bag is torn. And in the meantime, those little girls come there and start twirling Jia's muffler, which makes Jia suffocate, and she faints and falls down. Here in hell, Li Yan realizes that Jia has lost that small bag, and now she is in trouble. Li Yan shouts loudly, calling for Talupa, and says, I will serve my sentence in the underworld of knives, because until now no one has been able to complete that sentence. And if someone completes it, then their sentence is reduced. Talupa alerts him, because his life could also be in danger. But Li Yan doesn't agree, and gets ready for the punishment. After that, we see Jia, who has regained consciousness, and she is in her house, where her friend is taking care of her. He says, Jia had fainted, so I brought her home. He asks her, what happened to you? To which Jia tells, 2 spirits were after me. Then her friend takes out a book and starts reading. Jia sees that he is holding the book upside down. And in the meantime, the lights also start going off and her friend disappears. Those 2 little girls are watching Jia from under the sofa, which scares Jia. Meanwhile, Li Yan has reached the underworld of knives, where he has to cross a bridge. And there he is being attacked with knives. But Li Yan faces them and starts crossing the bridge. On the other side, those little girls grabbing Jia's leg say, we want your body. Jia, scared, runs out, but those girls don't leave her. Meanwhile, Li Yan is so injured that he faints from exhaustion and falls. Here, Jia, while running, reaches a building where more children's spirits arrive. There, in a state of unconsciousness, memories of Jia and Ayam are running through Li Yan's mind, and he gets up again and dragging himself, he finally crosses that bridge. On the other side, Jia, scared, is about to fall from the building when Li Yan comes there and saves her. Seeing Li Yan in that condition, Jia starts crying, and with a drop of her tear, a light forms around them, just like it had formed when Ayam was given the fox bead. Just then, Li Yan regains consciousness, and he tells Jia, I found you. Jia takes Li Yan home and gives him first aid. Then a flashback is shown in which Jia is sitting outside the house, remembering her parents and crying. Just then, 2 fireflies come there, and she starts playing with them because she thought that these fireflies were her parents. And we see that it was Li Yan who used to send those fireflies to Jia. Now Jia, while treating Li Yan, sits by his side all night and takes care of him. In the next scene, we see a small child who is none other than that same Imugi who had now grown up. Meanwhile, Li Yan wakes up in the morning and smiles seeing Jia sleeping. Just then, Shinju arrives there. After Jia wakes up, Shinju introduces himself to Jia and tells her, I too am a fox. Then Shinju serves food to Li Yan and takes great care of Li Yan in front of Jia. After Shinju leaves, these 2 enjoy ice cream. Li Yan, looking at her, smiles and says, one ice cream makes life so sweet. Then Jia asks Li Yan about his first love, so he tells her the whole story. Li Yan tells her, and we see a flashback in which Ayum is learning archery from Li Rang. So Li Rang asks her, why do you want to learn this? So she says, I want to kill my dad. Li Rang, surprised, asks her the reason. So she says, he is the king of this country. Then, after hearing all her words, Li Rang decides to support her. Now in the present, Li Rang tells Jia that Ayum's dad was a very bad king. He had caused a lot of harm to his people. He was actually an Imugi in human form. Next, we see Jia and Li Yan sitting together and saying, cheers, where they are both telling each other their hobbies, which are completely opposite to each other. Then Jia asks Li Yan about his lifelong dream, where Li Yan says, it's not possible, but yes, if it were, I would want to become a human. Then Li Yan asks Jia the same question, where Jia says, I just wanted to live happily with my parents. Hearing this, Li Yan asks Jia to send him her parents' photo. After that, Li Yan goes to drop Jia home, where they both lovingly say goodbye to each other. Jia goes inside. Just then, 2 fireflies come there and start flying near Jia. She then remembers her childhood, and she understands that it was Li Yan. She turns back to look, but by then Li Yan had left from there. But actually, Li Yan was sitting on the roof, watching Jia. The next day, Li Yan takes coffee to Talupa so that she can find out about Jia's parents. But Talupa says, I cannot see their location. Li Yan says, this means they are neither in the immigration office nor in the living real. Here, the president of Jia's company comes to meet their team, who is none other than that child Imugi's caretaker. In the next scene, Jia is having lunch with her colleagues. Just then, Li Yan comes there and says, I have to show you something. Jia asks, what? But before that, Li Yan pulls her away. Then we see Jia and Li Yan in a place where, due to some festival, people are roaming in traditional clothes. Li Yan asks Jia to wait there and goes off for some work. Just then, Jia's eyes fall on a traditional dress which she likes very much. Here, Li Yan finishes his work and returns, but Jia is not there, and he starts looking for her. Just then, in the crowd, he sees a girl following whom Li Yan reaches a bridge and sees that it was Jia. Seeing her, Li Yan remembers Aum, and he runs and kisses her. Jia pushes Li Yan back and asks, "The person you just kissed, was it really Jia or your first love?" Li Yan gives her no answer. Jia tells him, "I am not the one you are looking for, so you should decide whether you want to live in the past or in the present." Then she places her hand on his face and says, "I don't look that bad either." Both look at each other and start smiling. Then Jia and Li Yan are walking in the jungle, talking. But Jia, while talking to Li Yan, is unable to make eye contact with him, irritated by which Li Yan comes in front of her and asks, "Why are you not looking at me?" Jia changes the subject and starts showing Li Yan fish in the water. Seeing Jia blushing so much, Li Yan says, "It's very beautiful." Jia thinks that Li Yan is praising the fishes, but when she turns back, Li Yan is looking at her. She asks him why he is staring at her like that, to which Li Yan says, "You were the one who told me to look." Then, irritated by his words, Jia leaves from there. After that, Li Yan tells Jia, "We have come here to meet the governor, who can tell about your parents, and he is one of the 4 mountain spirits, who is now living like a human." Jia asks, "Where will we find him?" So Li Yan says, "There is no need to look for him. He will come to meet us himself." Then they both, just for fun, go to a fortune teller and ask him about their past lives. That man scans both their photos and tells about Jia. She was a princess in her previous life. Then he says about Li Yan. In his previous life, he was a laborer, hearing which Li Yan gets angry, and Jia starts laughing. Then they both get up to leave, where that man tells them, "You should not live together, because if that happens, one of you will die." Then we see Rang, who goes to meet the fortune teller. That man takes off his glasses and we see that he was blind. Rang, by sensing the room, finds out that Li Yan had come there. Then he asks him about the eyebrows of tiger. That man takes out different things from his bag and shows them, and says, "These are the things that have disappeared from the world." Then he shows a pair of glasses, which are the eyebrows of tiger, with which one could find out about people's past lives. Rang tempts him with money, but he refuses. Here, Jia and Li Yan go to the government office. Li Yan calls out to the governor, and the governor comes out. Li Yan says, "I have come here looking for someone." Then, from their conversation, it is revealed that the governor is the brother of the girl whom Li Yan had killed on her wedding day. Meanwhile, the fortune teller tells Li Rang, "I cannot give those glasses in exchange for money." Li Rang says, "What if I take the glasses by force?" At this, that man shows a small bag and says, "If you did so, you would be trapped in this bag. Therefore, if you want these glasses, you will have to give your most precious thing." On the other side, the governor calls his companions and makes them attack Li Yan, after which Li Yan fights everyone and wins. Then he fights with the governor, in which he defeats the governor, and in the end it turns out that they are both best friends, who often meet like this. Then Jia shows the governor her parents' photo and asks, "Have you ever seen them?" The governor tells her the exact date of the accident. He tells her, "A few days before the accident, a man had come to meet me, who said that he was going to cause an accident." Li Yan asks, "Where would that man be?" The governor says, "He is around you," and his real target was not Jia's parents, but Jia. Hearing this, Jia is quite surprised. Meanwhile, Li Rang is still looking for Li Yan. Here, the governor takes Li Yan aside and says that he should not stay with Jia because the man who came to meet the governor had told about Jia. She has the king's scale, meaning that Imugi's scale, which Li Yan had seen on Jia's neck that day. He says, "Imugi's spirit is with Jia." Jia is thinking, "Why are my parents in trouble because of me? And why is Li Yan helping me so much?" At this, Li Yan, lovingly caressing her, says, "Because I don't want to hurt you, and I want your life to have a happy ending." That's why he wants to be with her all the time. Then Li Yan asks Jia to go with him to find that man. Jia says, "But how will we find him?" Then Li Yan takes out his phone, on which Li Rang has been calling for a long time. Li Yan says, "This phone will lead us to that man." Then he picks up the phone, where Li Rang calls him to meet. Then they both set out to meet Li Rang. On the way, Jia asks Li Yan, "Will your brother really tell us the whereabouts of that man?" Li Yan says, "No, but yes, he will do something that will make Li Rang himself go to that man." After that, Li Yan, with his magic, writes on the shoes with a paintbrush, "Find the man with that mark," and then that word disappears. Li Yan tells Jia, Li Rang will wear these shoes and will get hypnotized, after which he will go straight to that man. Then they both, following him, will reach that marked man. Now they both go to meet the fortune teller, where Li Yan sends Jia inside and hides Li Rang's shoes. Then Li Yan comes inside, where he sees Li Rang, who is calling the fortune teller inside. And when Jia and Li Yan find out that he is the real fortune teller, the fortune teller checks Li Yan with a magnifying glass to see if he is precious to Li Rang or not. After checking, he finds out that Li Yan is Rang's most precious thing, so he gives him the eyebrows of tiger. After that, Li Rang leaves from there. Outside, when he doesn't find his shoes, he wears Li Yan's shoes and gets hypnotized and sets out to meet that same man. Li Yan and Jia also start following him. Just then, that fortune teller stops Li Yan and pulls him into his small bag. A problem arises for Jia, because on one hand, she had to follow Li Rang, and on the other hand, she also had to get Li Yan out of the bag. But at that moment, Jia decides to save Li Yan, where the fortune teller tells Jia, "In exchange for Li Yan, you must give me your most precious thing," and gives her time only until 9 at night, which was running out. Jia runs to her house and starts looking for that precious thing. Then she takes a taxi and goes back to that place, but by then that place had closed. Here, time was running out, and Jia was knocking on the door, but no one came. Just then, the door opens and Jia goes inside. The fortune teller turns over the sand clock because time was up, but just then Jia arrives there and gives him that toy, which was broken in the accident. Meanwhile, Li Rang reaches that marked man's house, who was none other than that Imugi's caretaker. That man from inside asks Li Rang, "What is the reason for your coming here?" And just then Li Rang comes out of hypnosis and wonders, "How did I get here?" He realizes Li Yan must have done this. Meanwhile, the fortune teller checks the toy, but it is not Jia's most precious thing. Then he looks at Jia's hand, in which he finds out that the fox bead is Jia's most precious thing. And because Jia knew nothing about the fox bead, she gives it away and frees Li Yan. Meanwhile, Child Imugi realizes that Jia has lost the fox bead. After that, Li Yan and Jia are going home, where Li Yan asks Jia, "Have you given 10 years of your life in exchange for me?" At this, Jia laughs and says, "You are thinking a bit too much. In fact, it was cheaper than that." Jia says, "Li Yan is mine now, so I will not let him go so easily." Here, Jia tells Li Yan nothing about the fox bead. After going home, Li Yan and Jia are sitting and talking while drinking, where Li Yan tells Jia, "You have lost your last chance to meet your parents." To which Jia says, "I trust Li Yan because he told me I will give your life a happy ending." Then he puts Jia to sleep and goes to Talupa and says, "I know that Talupa knows everything about Imugi, and he has come back to life." At this, Talupa says Jia herself revived Imugi. Li Yan gets angry and says, "Because of me, Ayum had to die." Then he asks, "Where is Imugi?" But Talupa says, "I had repeatedly explained to you that a fox and a human cannot be one, yet you did not listen." Li Yan again gets angry at her and asks for Imugi's whereabouts. Meanwhile, Child Imugi comes into Jia's dream, where Jia is in Imugi's room. Imugi turns around and says, "Hi," to Jia. In the meantime, Jia's sleep breaks. Talupa tells Li Yan a part of Imugi is in Jia's body because she lost that fox bead. Knowing this, Li Yan is shocked. He cries and says, "It took me 600 years to be born, and I just wanted to live happily with my family." At this, Talupa says, "I too can do nothing now, because this was Jia's fate." Li Yan, in anger, moves towards Talupa with pieces of glass using his powers. Just then, Talupa's husband shouts loudly and stops him. Li Yan tells Talupa, "If anything happens to Jia, I will destroy both the living real and the afterlife." Then Li Yan comes to Jia and asks about the fox bead. So Jia says, "I gave it to the fortune teller because I wanted to free Li Yan, so I didn't know it was so important." At this, Li Yan says, "I will stay at your house for a few days for your safety." Jia agrees and asks him to sleep on the sofa. At the same time, Li Yan tells her about the bad dream. She says, "In the dream, I saw a child, and since I woke up, I have been feeling quite happy, as if I already knew him." Li Yan understands that Jia is talking about Imugi. After that, we see Jia trying to sleep, but Li Yan stands at the door watching her because he had to take care of Jia. Jia says, "I won't even be able to sleep like this." Jia says, "Sleep on the floor," but Li Yan says, "I am a modern fox, so I will not sleep on the floor." Jia says, "All right, you sleep here," and Li Yan goes and sleeps on her bed. To which Jia says, "My father used to say, if we can't sleep, we should remember things that give us happiness." Then they both start telling each other their favorite things, and Jia falls asleep. In the morning, Jia is getting ready for the office when Shinju comes to her and asks, "Stay safe, because if anything happens to you, Li Yan will be hurt 10 times more." Seeing Shinju's concern for Li Yan, Jia tells him, "Li Yan is so lucky to have a friend like you." Jia comes out and sees that Li Yan is also standing there dressed in a suit to go to the office with her. Then in the car, Jia says, "How will you enter my workplace?" To which Li Yan says, "I am a 9-tailed fox and I can do anything." Then they both reach the broadcast station. There, everyone starts greeting Li Yan because Li Yan had hypnotized everyone. Then Li Yan tells Jia to sit there and wait for him. Jia asks, "How will you wait for 24 hours? So Li Yan says, "What's 24 hours? I can wait for you for 24 years." Then Jia fixes Li Yan's tie and leaves from there. On the other side, a lady comes running out of Imugi's room screaming. Imugi pulls her back again, but the lady's fingernail breaks off and falls right there, and the door closes. After some time, the door opens, and we see that Imugi has now become an adult. After that, we see Gia having lunch with her co-workers in a restaurant, where Lee Yan is also sitting on the chair behind, just looking at Gia, and Gia is also repeatedly looking at him. There, Kim is noticing Gia, and everyone finds out that he is Lee Yan. Gia's friends ask her what is going on between them. Lee Yan says, "I have one-sided love for Gia." Then Gia interrupts, saying, "I also have feelings for Lee Yan." Here, Lee Rang finds out that Shinju was following him, so he beats him hard, and then Lee Rang sends Lee Yan a photo of Shinju, in which he is quite injured. Meanwhile, Lee Yan reaches Lee Rang, where he asks him why he was following him. To this, Lee Yan says, "There are other ways to harm me." Then why Imugi? Lee Rang says with a laugh, "Oh, so you found out about him." Then Lee Yan also warns Lee Rang to stay away from Imugi. Then Lee Yan goes to Shinju and gets very sad seeing his condition. Now at night, Gia and her colleagues go to the president's house for dinner, where the boss's eyes fall on a cherry plant. He is about to touch it when the president arrives and forbids him from touching it. The president says, "There are 2 rules in my house. First, no one can touch that plant, and second, no one is allowed to go to the 2nd floor." To which Gia asks, "Is someone there?" The president says, "I live here alone." After that, everyone is having dinner, and Gia needs to go to the washroom, so she asks the president for directions and leaves. Then when Gia comes out of the washroom, she hears some noises from upstairs, and we see that Imugi is knocking on the door with the hands of that dead lady, and Gia comes upstairs because of that sound. But she thinks that she shouldn't snoop around like this, so she starts to leave. Just then, her foot steps on that fingernail. Gia picks it up and starts looking at it. Then the door starts knocking again, and Gia starts going towards it. Gia is about to open that door when she gets a call from Lee Yan, and she starts talking to him. As soon as she hangs up the phone, the president comes and puts his hand on her shoulder, and Gia gets scared. Gia says, "I heard some noises, so I came upstairs." To which the president says, "The noise must have come due to the wind." Then both of them leave from there. When Gia comes home, she smells the fragrance of hot rice, which Lee Yan had made for her. He says, "As long as I am here, I will keep doing something like this for you." Then Gia also gives Lee Yan his favorite ice cream, seeing which Lee Yan becomes happy. After that, they both are eating ice cream while watching a movie, and Lee Yan is lovingly looking at Gia. Gia, looking at Lee Yan, says, "Don't you like the movie?" To which Lee Yan says, "The movie is very good, and I wish this moment would stop right here." Gia says, "I want the same thing," and then rests her head on Lee Yan's shoulder. The next day, Lee Yan goes to buy shoes for Gia, and Gia finds a box outside the house. She opens it and sees that it contains the eyebrows of Tiger, and also a note which says, "Wear this and look in the mirror." Here Gia stands in front of the mirror and wears those glasses and sees Aeum in the mirror, where she and Lee Yan are fighting, and Lee Yan kills Aeum. Just then, Lee Yan arrives there and seeing Gia crying asks, "Did you see everything?" Gia says, "Yes, I saw everything. You killed her for Imugi." Then we see a flashback. From the conversation between Aeum and her dad, we find out that some evil force, meaning Imugi, has taken control of her. Aeum shoots an arrow and tells Imugi, "Get out of my dad's body." Imugi tells Aeum, "Your dad willingly gave his body to me because he was born to be sacrificed, and because your dad wanted to save you, he gave his body to me." Knowing this, Aeum is shocked. Meanwhile, Imugi says, "If you want to free your dad, then in return you will have to give me the mountain spirit." Then Aeum thinks for a bit and says, "Okay, but the mountain spirit cannot leave its place, so we will have to go there." Then she tells Imugi, "Enter my body." In the next scene, we see Lee Yeon pointing a sword at Aeum. Lee Yeon says to Imugi hidden in Aeum's body, "What did you think that you could reach me by using Aeum?" And then they both fight, in which Lee Yeon kills Aeum. In the present, Gia is very hurt seeing all this. Gia crying says, "From the very beginning, Lee Yeon wanted to catch Imugi. That's why he took Aeum's life." Then Gia says, "She is the same Aeum whom you have kept in your heart for years, right?" Now Lee Yeon, hiding his true emotions, says, "What you saw is the truth. I am like that. I did all this so that I could save thousands of lives." Hearing this, Gia is even more hurt. Lee Yeon, wiping her tears, says, "You shouldn't waste your emotions on me. Only then will you be able to live this life well." Saying this, Lee Yeon leaves from there. After that, we see the president, who is writhing in pain as if he is about to die. Just then, he plucks a tiny cherry from that plant and smells it, which makes him feel better. Lee Rang is also sitting there because he had come to meet Imugi. But the president says, now is not the right time to meet because I don't want to see Lee Rang get hurt. Here, Imugi knew every thought in Lee Rang's mind. That's why he knew that he hated his brother. At the same time, he says, Lee Rang cannot kill Jia because Jia was sacrificed. Now Jia is my bride. Here, to improve Li Yan's mood, Shinju brings him rice and asks, why didn't you tell Jia the whole truth? Li Yan says, I don't want to repeat the past. That's why it's better to remain a villain in Jia's eyes. Then Li Yan asks Shinju to keep an eye on Jia and leaves. After that, we see Jia who, in connection with her new story, goes to meet a psychiatrist. Just then, the psychiatrist says Jia's mom had also come to know about this topic in exactly the same way. And when Jia was 9 years old, hypnotherapy was performed on her at her mom's request. But Jia didn't remember any of this. That's why Jia brings a CD from the psychiatrist, in which she is going to find answers to all her questions. Jia takes that CD to her room and starts watching it. In the video, it is shown that Jia has been hypnotized. Jia says, everyone is dead like animals and lying on the ground. When the psychiatrist asks, Jia tells her, I was born in a cave where people's graves used to be, and one day an animal came out of that cave, which is called Imugi. Then that girl on the screen, looking towards Jia, starts reading the instructions written behind. Seeing this, Jia gets scared and turns off the computer. Meanwhile, Lee Rang is sitting in his house when the green lady comes there and gives him a bottle. She asks him, what are you most afraid of? Lee Rang doesn't answer and closes the door. Going inside, he starts hearing noises from his cupboard. He opens the cupboard and finds himself in his old house, where he and his mom used to live. Just then, the villagers come and start beating him, and his mom is watching secretly. Lee Rang gets angry and starts beating the people, but they all disappear. Lee Rang goes inside and sees that his mom was very scared. He says, on that day too, you were watching hidden like this. His mom says, those people will not leave you alive because you are a fox's child. That's why she tells him, go away from there. Just then, Lee Rang puts his hand on his head and sees that blood is coming out of his head. And suddenly he finds himself in the forest where his mom had abandoned him. Just then, many spirits come and attack Lee Rang. Lee Rang thinks, this time Li Yan will not come to save me. On the other side, the same green lady comes to Jia and gives her a green bottle too. Jia, shocked, runs after her. She opens the door and reaches the same place where her and her parents' accident was about to happen earlier. On the other side, that lady goes to Lee Rang and tells him that she herself has created this place, and whoever dies here also dies in real life. She also tells him about Jia. Jia is also trapped in the same condition. Then we see Jia screaming and telling her dad, stop the car! After that, that green lady asks Li Yan to choose one of two doors. Li Yan grabs her throat and says that he will kill her. The lady says, you have very little time, otherwise your brother and your lover will remain trapped there. Now Li Yan opens a door, and over there Lee Rang, while fighting, falls. The spirits are about to eat him when Li Yan's voice comes from behind. On the other side, Jia calls out to her parents, but they are unable to hear her. Jia's mom tells her dad, Jia had a hypnotherapy session that day, and now we are very worried about our daughter. How will we protect her now? After some time, they give Jia her birthday present. Jia understands that she has come to the same time when it was her birthday and her parents' accident was about to happen. Here, while fighting the spirits, Li Yan's and Lee Rang's powers start to weaken. Just then, Jia's car has an accident. After the accident, we see the Green Lady and Imugi. The Green Lady says, I thought Li Yan would come to save Jia, but he went to save his brother. Imugi, laughing, says, he is a mountain spirit and not an easy opponent. He is still challenging me. In the office, Jia's colleagues go out and see that Jia is lying unconscious. They want to pick her up, but Jia doesn't get up. On the other side, Li Yan is also lying unconscious on the ground, and Shinju is trying to pick him up. We see that Li Rang and Li Yan trick the spirits and escape from the other side of the cave. Li Yan thinks how Jia will get out of all this by then. Li Rang asks him, why did you choose me instead of Jia? Li Yan says, I had chosen the wrong door. Li Rang says, you are lying. Just then, Li Yan's eyes fall on Li Rang's leg injury. When he checks, he finds out that poison has started to spread in it. Li Rang bandages his wound. Just then, they hear the sound of spirits approaching again, and both run away from there. After that, Jia opens her eyes and sees that she is in her house. Her mom is sitting in front of her. Jia thinks that the same trick is being played on her that happened years ago. She asks her mom some questions, to which her mom answers perfectly. Then Jia starts looking around her room and sees that her graduation photo with her parents is there. Jia hides a cutter behind her back and then says, I want to eat walnut cookies. Her mom comes close and says, you are allergic, right? And lovingly pinches her nose. After this, Jia is convinced that this is her real mom, and she puts down the cutter. Outside the house, Imugi and the Green Lady are talking about Jia. We find out that they are both playing with Jia's subconscious mind. Then they both come out of that world. Imugi says, my plan failed because Li Yan didn't even come there. The green lady says, no matter how much she tries, she won't be able to return alive. After that, we see Jia hugging her mom and saying, even if this is a dream, I don't want to go away from you. After that, we see Shinjo going to Talupa to ask for help to save Li Yan and Jia. After that, Shinjo comes out with a red cloth. There, Talupa's husband tells her he can trade his life for this. Shinjo says maybe Li Yan wants the same thing. Here, Jia looks at the wall and remembers that it is not her room. Just then, she starts hearing the sound of dripping, and this sound was actually from the IV drip she was getting in the real world, but she couldn't understand it. Then Jia sits down and starts noting everything in her diary about what had happened to her. In the meantime, her dad comes to call her for food. Seeing them, she forgets everything and hugs them. Meanwhile, Li Yan and Li Rang, running, reach a ravine-like place. Li Yan tells him, the door will open only when you overcome your fear. Then Li Yan asks him his biggest fear, where Li Rang reveals, my biggest fear is being abandoned. Then Li Rang closes his eyes and starts looking for a way out, and a door opens in front. And we see that Li Rang jumps, but Li Yan, to stop those spirits, stays right there. After which Li Yan, escaping those spirits, jumps forcefully and jumps into the ravine, taking the spirits with him. Meanwhile, Li Rang regains consciousness in the real world and, in an injured state, starts going to save Li Yan. Shinjo lays Jia down next to Li Yan and ties that red ribbon on both their hands. Meanwhile, Jia is sitting with her parents when the telephone starts ringing. Jia picks up the phone and Li Yan is talking from the other side. He says, I couldn't come to save you, but you will have to get out of this yourself. Only then will you be able to return to real life. But Jia couldn't recognize Li Yan. In the meantime, the phone also gets disconnected, and we see that Li Yan had used some spell to contact Jia. Here, Jia slowly starts remembering the moments she spent with Li Yan. On the other side, Jia goes to her parents and asks them what they would do if she got lost somewhere. To that, her dad says, if that happens, I will find you from any corner of the world. Jia gets emotional and says, I have to go, because this is not my real life, and I will find you soon. Her parents say, how will you live alone in that world? Jia tells them, Li Yan is with me. Here Jia gets up and emotionally starts waking Li Yan up and cries, resting her head on his chest. Meanwhile, Li Yan, walking in that world, was only thinking about Jia, whether she was safe or not, and right there, he falls and faints. Just then, the green lady comes to him and is very happy to see him in that condition. She starts to leave when Li Yan grabs her leg and asks, how is Jia? That lady, taking pity on him, tells him, Jia is fine. Li Yan tells her, this is my own created world. And then, putting his hand around her neck, he grabs Imugi's throat, where Imugi snatches his hand away with a jerk, but his button gets caught in Li Yan's hand. Then Li Yan kills that lady, and she dies in reality too. After that, we see Jia coming from somewhere. Just then, it starts raining, and she sees Li Yan on the other side of the road holding a red umbrella. Li Yan, smiling, walks towards her, but Jia says, this time I will come to you. She runs and hugs Li Yan. She says, I waited for you a lot, and then they kiss. Next, when the president asks, Imugi tells him, with the help of the spirits of darkness, I have reached Li Yan, and I have found out that Li Yan will not kill Jia in this life. Imugi says, in my past life, I was going to become a mountain spirit, but that couldn't happen. So, in this life, I will also take the mountain spirit's body, and will also obtain Jia. On the other side, Li Yan takes Jia to show her a waterfall. Li Yan asks Jia, you won't ask this question why I killed Aum? Jia says, I haven't heard the full story of the nine-tailed fox yet, so something must have happened that you had to unwillingly take the life of your first love. Then Li Yan remembers that past scene in which Aum is shooting arrows at Li Yan. From Aum's words, Li Yan understands that Imugi is in her body. Imugi thinks that Li Yan will get emotional seeing Aum, so he starts blackmailing him laughingly. But Li Yan says, Aum means nothing to me. Imugi attacks Li Yan with a nearby dagger and is about to kill him, but stops because Aum comes to her senses and starts stopping Imugi from attacking Li Yan. Li Yan says, Aum, it's you, right? She sits down and starts asking Li Yan for help and says, kill me. Li Yan comes to her and says, I won't let anything happen to you. I am with you. Just then, Imugi in Aum's body wakes up again and stabs Li Yan in the stomach with a sword. Li Yan says, if you want my body, take it, but leave Aum. Then Imugi, in exchange, asks Li Yan for his heart, because the entire power of mountain spirits is in his heart. Just then, Aum comes to her senses again and requests him to kill her, then unwillingly Li Yan has to kill Aum. In the present, Jia, holding Li Yan's same hand, says thanks, and for making him wait so long says, sorry, So Li Yan tells Jia, I want to see you not as a shadow of the past, but as the present Jia. In the next scene at home, Shinju is serving food to Li Yan. When Li Yan asks, he tells him, I didn't see Imugi, but I saw a middle-aged man taking Li Rang home. In the next scene, Jia's boss introduces everyone to the new intern, who is Imugi, and he tells them all, my name is Terry. Then everyone gets busy with their work. Terry, observing Jia, tries to know her thoughts, but cannot. In the next scene, Jia goes for an investigation of a dead body. Looking at the body, it seems that its blood has been sucked out. Just then, her eyes fall on its nails, which seem familiar to her. Then she takes its photo and remembers that she had seen these very nails at the president's house. She runs and matches them with the nails she has, and finds out that they are the same nails. After this, she goes straight to the president and questions him about this, where she finds out that he is the man with the mark on his head. Then the president shows her that paper flower, which she had made in her childhood, and behind which her parents had left a message. Why aren't you coming to save us? Jia asks him, where are my parents? So the president asks, give me the mountain spirit in return. After that, we see Terry. Li Yan disappears from there and appears behind Terry. Li Yan tells him, I told you we'd meet soon. He says, Jia, Li Rang, and Jia's parents are all under my control. Therefore, if you give your body to me, then I will leave them. Li Yan thrusts a sword into Imugi's stomach, but it has no effect on him, because this time he has worn the body of a dead person. Then both go fighting to the terrace, where from their conversation, it is revealed that Imugi has been alive in this world, even before Li Yan's birth, and he has spent thousands of years in Blackwater to become a mountain god. But one day when he was worshipping the dragon, a human saw him, and after that, instead of becoming a mountain god, he became Imugi. Imugi asks Li Yan for his heart in exchange for leaving everyone. Meanwhile, Jia finds out from the president that her parents are in his custody, but the president asks for Li Yan in exchange for releasing them. Just then, Jia suddenly feels a pain in her chest. Then the president, giving Jia a bottle, says, if you want to save your parents, you will have to make Li Yan drink a drop of this, which will make him fall into a deep sleep. Here at home, Jia is sitting sadly and looking at that same bottle. She goes outside the house and sees that Li Yan is standing right there. Li Yan says, a lot happened with me too today, but I'll tell you later. Then Li Yan gifts Jia new sneakers and puts them on her with his own hands. Now Li Yan, showing Jia that bottle, tells her everything the president said, that if she hands Li Yan over to him, he will release her parents. At this, Li Yan asks her, what do you want? Jia says, I want Li Yan and my family too. In the next scene, Li Yan tells Talupa why she isn't teaching Imugi a lesson, to which Talupa says that it's because she can't bear to see Li Yan troubled, because a part of Imugi is inside Jia. Li Yan asks, so, is there any way to separate it from Jia? To which Talupa says, yes, either Jia has to die or Imugi himself has to come out. Only then can Jia be saved. But even knowing all this, Li Yan still talks about choosing Jia and gets up from there disappointed and starts to leave. Just then, Talupa comes from behind and tells him that Jia's parents are inside those ground cherries. Then, in the car, Li Yan tells Jia about those ground cherries, where Jia says, I saw those at the president's house. Jia is surprised to learn that her parents are inside those cherries. She quickly tells Li Yan to take her to the president's house, but Li Yan tells her, I went there, but the president has hidden them somewhere else. Now we see that Li Rang, after thinking it over, goes to the president and finally gets ready to do his work. But he tells the president, I cannot bring Li Yan's heart, but I can bring Li Yan to you. Then the president gives him that same bottle of sedative drug and leaves from there. The next day, Li Yan comes to the president's house to meet Li Rang, where the president is keeping an eye on them from a distance. Li Rang mixes that drug, which the president had given him, into Li Yan's coffee. When Li Yan drinks that coffee, then Li Rang says, I can't fight you. Then he throws the drug bottle towards Li Yan, seeing which Li Yan understands that something was mixed in the coffee. Before Li Yan could do anything, he falls to the ground. Now after Li Yan faints, the president comes inside and checks him. The president calls Imugi and tells him, Li Yan has fallen into our hands. Come home quickly. Imugi has come for lunch with the office staff. Imugi hangs up the phone, goes inside, and while having lunch with everyone, leaves from there in the middle. Jia also goes after him and starts scolding him for getting up and leaving in the middle without telling. Imugi says, sorry, to her, and then they both go back inside. Meanwhile, at home, Li Rang and the president are waiting for Imugi. Li Rang tells the president, I want to end the favor deal. The president says, "The deal is not yet complete because we haven't got Li Yan's heart, so you should sit quietly." Just then, Li Rang smiles and says, "I have become a slave to an Imugi and cannot do anything without his orders." Hearing this, the president gets angry and starts attacking Li Yan with a knife. But just then, Li Rang punches him hard, and we see that it was not Li Yan, but Li Rang who had come in disguise. Just then, the real Li Rang also regains consciousness. Seeing both of them, the president is shocked. In a flashback, we see Li Rang was told by Li Yan about his plan and asked to support him. In the present, the president takes them to the ground cherries. On the other side, after finishing dinner, Imugi tries to leave quickly, but Jia stops him. Just then, Li Yan sends Jia a picture on her phone. After seeing the photo, Jia tells Imugi, "Don't pretend to be romantic in front of me, because I already know everything." Imugi, laughing, says, "Oh, that's why you weren't letting me go?" Then, in a flashback, it is shown that Li Yan had already told Jia about Terry and said to trap him. Now, Imugi tells Jia, "Now that you know everything about me, you yourself could be in danger." But Jia says, "Li Yan told me, Imugi cannot kill you." After that, Jia runs home where Li Yan is standing and smiling. Jia hugs him, and then they both go inside the house. There, seeing her parents, Jia gets emotional and hugs them. Then Jia takes out a flower from her bag on which a message is written. She asks them, "Did you write this?" Her dad tells her, "Yes, once I had woken up and a man told me that if I wrote on this flower, Jia would find us." Jia understands that it was Li Yan. Her mom asks, "Was he the one we had seen a little while ago?" To which Jia answers, "Yes," and tells them, "He is my boyfriend." At night, Imugi again contacts Jia in her dream, where Jia finds herself in Imugi's house, where she sees Imugi sitting. Imugi comes to Jia and says, "We are both connected to each other because of fate." Imugi, with his power, breaks a mirror, in which Jia sees the same scars on her face and, scared, she wakes up. In the next scene, Lia Yan calls the president and says that he thought the president would want ground cherries, so if he wants, he can come meet him. The president agrees. The next day, Jia tells Li Yan about her dream from the night. Li Yan holds her hand and says, "Everything will be all right." Then Jia tells Li Yan, "My parents want to meet my boyfriend." Li Yan, suddenly nervous, says, "What?" Jia, seeing his face, starts laughing. In the next scene, Jia, along with her parents, is preparing for Li Yan's welcome. Li Yan comes outside Jia's house. Jia also comes out with her parents. Li Yan introduces himself, greets them, and gives them a car as a gift. Jia's parents then ask Li Yan about his age, higher studies, and job. To every question of which Li Yan answers no, because he had never gone to school. Because of this, Jia feels embarrassed. Further, we see that Li Yan finally convinces Jia's parents. In the next scene, Li Yan and Jia are drinking coffee and discussing their future plans. But in between, Li Yan gets emotional and says, "I wish I were a normal human too." Jia holds his hand, says sweet things to cheer him up, and then takes out a matching ring and puts it on Li Yan. Both get lost in each other. In the next scene, the president comes to Li Yan. He falls at Li Yan's feet, begs for his life, and asks for ground cherries. Li Yan, stopping him, says, "First, give all the information about Imugi." After that, the president tells Li Yan, "Just as I had awakened Imugi, he can also be put to sleep in the same way." He says, "To put Imugi to sleep, it is necessary water from that place, the body of a living human, blood for sacrifice, and the presence of some divine power." In the next scene, Imugi video calls Jia and shows her his friends whom he has hypnotized, and in exchange for releasing them, asks Jia to go on a date with him, and also asks her to come wearing the dress he sent. In the next scene, we see Imugi waiting for Jia in the restaurant. Just then, Jia arrives wearing that same dress. Before coming, Jia had told Li Yan everything, where Li Yan says, "I have put Shinjo on the task of finding your friends, so you don't need to go." But Jia says, "I will go to meet Imugi, and we will catch him today itself." Then Jia goes inside, where Imugi comes across as a good person in front of Jia, but Jia talks to him rudely. Imugi, to threaten her, again shows her his friends, and later tells his past story. Then he tells the final conclusion, "If you don't meet me, I will kill everyone you love." Night had fallen. Jia and Imugi are walking in the park. Imugi asks, "What do you feel for me?" Jia laughs and says, "I only love Li Yan." Angered, Imugi grabs Jia's shoulder. Just then, Li Yan comes there and pushes Imugi away. Here, Shinjo finds both of them. Li Yan and Jia start laughing at him. Li Yan pushes Imugi and takes him near the water on the ground and throws a tuft of hair there. Jia makes a cut on her wrist and lets drops of blood fall into the water. Lee Yan, with his power, strikes Imugi with lightning. Here, Talupa now realized that Lee Yan had done everything wrong. We see that nothing happens to Imugi. Lee Yan is surprised to see this. Imugi says, "The main part of whom I am looking for is inside someone else," and points towards Jia. Lee Yan turns back and sees and understands that the real Imugi is inside Jia. Jia's body is burning from the inside. After some time, Jia calms down and pushes Lee Yan away from herself. Then Lee Yan sees that Imugi has awakened in Jia's body. Imugi laughs and says, "Jia is only mine." Lee Yan, angry, shouts for him to get out of her body. Lee Yan asks Imugi hidden inside Jia's body, "Where is Jia?" Imugi says, "She too is trapped inside me." Imugi explains, "All this happened because of your mistake, because if you hadn't stopped that lady on the island from sacrificing that day, I wouldn't have had to split into 2 parts. But when the right time comes, we both will soon become one." Lee Yan asks, "When will that right time come?" Imugi says, "When I get your body, because you are a mountain spirit who will always be immortal." Lee Yan gets angry and says, "I will take your life." Imugi says, "If I die, Jia will also have to die." Imugi, angry, starts attacking Lee Yan. Lee Yan realizes that only a small part of Imugi is inside Jia, which is not that powerful. He was just saving himself by hiding behind Jia. Just then, Imugi stabs Lee Yan in the chest with a dagger. Lee Yan tightly holds his hand and, calling out to Jia, asks her to come back. Just then, Jia starts remembering the moments spent with Lee Yan, and she regains consciousness. Seeing all this, Jia is shocked, sits down and crying, tells Lee Yan, "Kill me so that I cannot hurt you," where Lee Yan hugs her and calms her down. Then Jia takes Lee Yan to Shinjo's hospital. Lee Yan tells Shinjo, "I deliberately made Imugi attack me because I wanted to test him." Then Lee Yan asks him to find out about the fortune teller from the restaurant lady. After that, Jia, looking at her own hands, cries and says to Lee Yan, "I've hurt you so much." Lee Yan hugs her and says, "If your mood is not good, we can go somewhere." Then it is shown that Lee Yan has taken Jia to a beach and they both have some emotional conversations. In the next scene, Imugi asks the president to go to the police station and surrender. He had also left a red-spotted virus on his body. After that, Lee Yan and Jia go to a hotel, where Lee Yan tells her, "Let's play a game today in which we are both a married couple." After that, they both act like married couples. Jia comes home from the office and Lee Yan cooks for her. Then they both sit and have lovely conversations. Lee Yan hugs her, where Jia again gets emotional and says, "I wish we were really a married couple and there was no Imugi and we both lived life like normal people." After that, Jia is sleeping. Lee Yan, stroking her head, thinks, "I will always protect her, and when this fight is over, Jia will have to stay alive." The next day, Jia is drinking coffee on the balcony, when Imugi calls her and says, "Jia, you did not do right by me. Look at yourself in the mirror." Imugi says, "Soon I will take over your entire body, and you will kill me with your own hands." Here, Talupa's husband sees that Talupa has tampered with Jia's record. When her husband asks, Talupa tells him the real Imugi is in Jia's body. So, to finish Imugi, Jia will have to die. To which her husband says, "Why do you want to take the life of that innocent girl to kill Imugi when you know how much Lee Yan loves her?" On the other side, Lee Yan wakes up. He doesn't see Jia near him, but his eyes fall on a note kept there which Jia had left for him. It said, "I have decided to go to my hometown, because no matter how much I run, I cannot escape from it." Then Lee Yan goes to Jia. They both happily spend some time. Meanwhile, the hypnotized president goes to the police station and tells the officer that he himself had killed the lady who was found on the wall at the construction site and surrenders himself. Now Lee Yan goes to drop Jia home, where Jia tells him, "Slowly my scales are increasing and one day I will not be here," and starts getting emotional. But Lee Yan hugs her and says, "I will fix everything." In the next scene, everyone comes to Lee Yan's house to discuss the plan. Lee Yan tells everyone the whole situation, that Imugi is in 2 people's bodies, so they have to finish him together. Jia gets up and shows everyone those scales on her hand and says, "Imugi is in my body, and Imugi told me I am soon going to spread a pandemic in the world in which no one will survive." Then it is shown that the owner of the restaurant brings a box from the fortune teller, and Lee Yan tells Jia, "You must remember the fortune teller who had taken your fox bead. From that same fortune teller, they have received a wooden dagger with which evil spirits can be killed." Here, the president had regained consciousness in jail and happily says, "At least I am alive." Just then, his hand starts itching. He sees that red marks have started to increase on his hands. And just then, an officer there also starts itching, and the same red spots start appearing on his body. After that, it is shown that the officer whose body had started showing red spots suddenly faints, where people start pressing his chest to revive him. Just then, an egg comes out of his mouth, seeing which everyone is surprised. On the other side, Lee Yuan calls everyone and says that they will catch Imugi today itself. The owner closes the restaurant, and inside, Li Rang applies horse blood all around to catch Imugi. Meanwhile, Xinzhou is running with a snake. Li Yian explains the plan to everyone, and Jia keeps a pin in her hand with which she was going to draw her blood to bring Imugi out. Li Yan says, once Imugi comes out, I will thrust the dagger into his body. He forbids everyone from coming in front of him. And Xinzhou had brought that snake so that when Imugi comes out of Jia's body, he would have no body left to enter, so he will have to go inside the snake's body. Jia says, we should do this work quickly, and presses the pin in her fist. Li Yan and Jia take the snake inside, and the door is locked from the outside. Inside, Jia, hugging Li Yan, says, you should not become weak seeing me. Even if I get injured, you should not let Imugi go. Li Yan says, this dagger is a wooden dagger which can only kill the souls of evil creatures. Jia says, then you can kill me too. To which Li Yan answers, yes. Just then, the Imugi inside Jia starts laughing and attacks Li Yan with that dagger. Li Yan falls down, and hearing his voice, Li Rang starts to go inside, but Xinzhou stops him. Inside, Imugi, to check Li Yan, whether he is dead or not, throws a chair at him, but Li Yan does not get up. Imugi takes out that scale from his neck, due to which the other Imugi sitting in the car feels pain. Here, Imugi, to enter Li Yan's body, takes out the scale and puts it in Li Yan's mouth. Just then, Li Yan suddenly gets up and stands, and now he also has Imugi's scale. Then we see that that dagger was also fake, because the restaurant owner had already told Li Yan that they couldn't find anything about the fortune teller. That's why Li Yan had told her, bring a fake dagger, so that I can find out the secret of Imugi entering another body. Li Yan starts putting that scale into the snake's body, but Imugi stops him and says, what do you think, I will so easily enter anyone's body? Just then, Imugi's head starts to hurt and he faints. After that, Imugi, by waving his hand, is spreading the virus in everyone and killing them one by one. Here, Jia regains consciousness, where Li Yan tells her that he is going to end this fight. Then Li Yan takes Jia outside, where the restaurant owner asks him, did you get your answer? Li Yan says, yes, I got a clue about how Imugi can go from one body to another, but now I will not just take him out of Jia's body, but I have to bury him forever. Meanwhile, in the office, the boss's health also starts deteriorating because he too had touched that officer. Jia's colleague tells her this on the phone. Red marks had started appearing on that officer's body, due to which he died. Li Rang shows them the news of the officer's death, and Jia also sees that people are dying in the town. Seeing this, Li Yan gets scared and starts to leave from there. Then, in the car, Li Yan talks to Talupa's husband, where he tells Li Yan Talupa tampered with Jia's death record. Then it is shown that Li Yan comes to Talupa and asks the reason for tampering with Jia's death record. Talupa says, no matter what you do, I will not change my decision. And to finish Imugi, Jia will have to die. Li Yan asks Talupa, give me 3 days time to catch Imugi. Talupa says, he is already out of control. I can't do anything. Li Yan, disappointed, gets up and starts to leave. Just then Talupa comes there and asks him, after all your efforts, if in the end only one of them can be saved, what will you do? Li Yan says, this means the ending will not change, and he bows his head, sadly. In the next scene, we see the disease was not only spreading inside, but also among people outside. When Jia finds out about this, she too is shocked to see this news on TV. After this, Li Yan tells Imugi that Talupa had changed Jia's death date, where Imugi says she is still alive. Li Yan says, yes, because Talupa's husband is protecting her, but she won't be able to live for long. And with her, Imugi's other part will also be finished. Imugi asks Li Yan, what are you trying to say? Li Yan says, what if you get a post even above the mountain spirit, meaning become the gatekeeper of the Samdo River? Imugi says, this is very interesting. I had never thought about this. Then Li Yan puts a condition before him. Imugi will become the gatekeeper by killing Talupa and will leave Jia's body forever. Imugi says, is this some trick of yours? Li Yan says, I know you will refuse, but in the end, you will accept my proposal. Li Yan remembers that Talupa had told him that in the end, only one life will be saved. Li Yan, smiling, says, then I don't need to worry. And taking out a scale, says, I will eat this and take Imugi inside me and jump into the Samdo River. After this, Imugi will never be able to come back to life. Talupa, angry, says, "Do you know the consequences of this?" Li Yan answers, "Yes, I know. After this, I will never be able to reincarnate, nor will I ever be able to meet Jia." Then Jia and Li Yan spend some time together in a cafe. Jia asks him for some future promises, and also asks for a gift on her birthday, which she slowly whispers in Li Yan's ear. Li Yan, smiling, says, "All right, I will bring that thing for you." And finally, Jia says, "What will I have to do all this?" Li Yan, holding her hand, says, "You will have to live." On the other side, Jia tells Li Yan how good it would have been if I had died myself, so that I couldn't hurt my friends and my family. Li Yan, getting emotional, says, "Don't ever think like that." Jia says, "I was thinking, what would happen to you if something happened to me?" Li Yan says, "I will curse myself for my whole life." Jia says, "The same is going to happen with me. That's why we both have to protect each other together." Then Imugi is thinking about Li Yan's proposal. Finally, Imugi accepts Li Yan's proposal, but Imugi already knew that this was some plan of Li Yan's. Still, he says yes so that he can trap Li Yan in his own web. Meanwhile, Shinjo tells Li Rong about the deal between Li Yan and Imugi. Li Rong understands. Li Yan is going to sacrifice himself to finish Imugi and sends the president to kill Jia. Jia is refusing him. In the meantime, the president fires the gun. Li Yan is shown injured, Li Rang crying, and Jia pointing a gun at herself. Then we are shown a previous scene, when the president is about to shoot Jia, but suddenly Imugi awakens in Jia's body and snatches the gun and kills the president himself. Then it is shown that Li Yan and Imugi are sitting and talking. In between, Imugi says, "My other part has awakened." Hearing this, Li Yan immediately gets up to leave, but Imugi stops him and says, "If you go, I will cancel the deal." Li Yan stops, thinking that this is the last chance to push Imugi into the Samdo River. On the other side, Imugi asks Li Yan for the plan to kill Talupa. Li Yan, giving him sleeping medicine, says, "This will make Talupa sleep." Imugi asks, "But who will make her drink it?" Li Yan says, "Someone close to her, like her husband. If she sleeps, then you will have to do the rest of the work." Then Li Yan says, "This work will be done the next day, but as per the promise, you will have to leave Jia's body." In the next scene, Li Rang tells Jia, "Do you know why Li Yan joined hands with Imugi? He is going to save you by sacrificing himself." Hearing this, Jia is shocked. Then she takes out a gun from her pocket and says, "If by mistake I hurt Li Yan, I will shoot myself. And if I can't do it, then you shoot me, because Li Yan will not kill me. That's why we have to work together." After that, Li Yan tells Li Rang to go to Samdo River the next day to finish Imugi, so that if anything goes wrong, Li Rang can handle it. Li Rang says, "I'll think about it." Li Yan says, "You don't care about your brother, who is about to die?" Li Rang says, "He'll die then, right? It's not that easy to kill a nine-tailed fox." Then Li Yan meets Jia and says, "Today, we both will go on a date and spend the day like a normal couple." Then they both play many games, roam around, and sit in the park eating ice cream. Evening had fallen. Li Yan and Jia are sitting together. Just then, Talupa calls Li Yan and asks him to meet immediately. Li Yan runs to the immigration office where Talupa tells him that she has a way to finish Imugi in which both Li Yan and Jia will survive. Talupa takes out a sword and gives it to Li Yan and says, "Tomorrow you have to strike Jia with this very quickly. That strike should be so strong that Jia comes close to dying. Because when she is about to die, Imugi will try to get out of her body. And as soon as Imugi comes out, I will turn him into stone." Li Yan says, "What if Jia dies?" Talupa says, "I won't let her die." Li Yan, in happiness, hugs her and says, "I already knew you weren't that bad." Then he leaves from there. After that, Li Yan comes home and sees that Imugi has awakened in Jia's body again. Imugi tells Li Yan, "Today the governor has lost a very precious thing." Li Yan understands that it was the mirror of the moon. Then Imugi reaches Talupa, where Talupa is shocked to see him because Imugi has worn the face of her dead son. To anger Talupa, Imugi tells her, "I myself had put the virus in your son." Hearing this, Talupa gets even angrier and uses her powers. On the other side, Li Yan tries to bring Jia to her senses. Then, he asks Li Rang and Jia to come with him. The three reach the immigration office where it is revealed that Imugi has turned Talupa into stone. Li Yan, in anger, starts strangling Imugi and a fight begins between them. Imugi is repeatedly coming between them. Seeing Jia, Li Yan starts to weaken. Imugi hidden in Jia's body starts beating Li Yan severely, and Li Yan can do nothing. Jia's condition starts to worsen, and Imugi starts to take complete control over her. Then, Li Yan is about to eat the scale when Jia puts a gun to her head and stops him from doing it. Li Yan steps forward and stops her from firing the gun. Before Jia can do anything, Li Yan eats that scale himself. Then Imugi comes out of Jia's body and enters Li Yan's body. Seeing Li Yan suffering so much, Jia starts crying. Just then, Imugi suddenly starts feeling pain. It turns out that Lee Yan had already eaten evening primrose, so that when Imugi entered him, he would become weak. This also affects Imugi's other part. Then they both start fighting again, and, fighting, reach the gate of Samdo River. Imugi finally weakens there. Li Yan holds him tightly and calls Li Rang. Li Rang says, "This is what I want," and Li Yan gives him the sword. Just then, the gate of Samdo River opens. Li Yan says, "Strike me with the sword." Jia, seeing this, crying, runs to Li Yan. Li Yan once again thrusts the sword into his body and, dragging Imugi, goes near the gate. He, smiling, says, "I love you," to Jia, and jumps into the Samdo River. It seems as if Li Yan was finally satisfied because he had saved Jia's life. Imugi dies and dissolves in the water. Then everything was as it was before. In the next scene, we see Li Rang drinking heavily. Shinjo goes to Li Rang and snatches his bottle. Then he gives him Li Yan's phone, in which Li Yan had recorded a video message after having lunch with Li Rang for the last time. Watching that, Li Rang breaks down and cries bitterly. The next day, Jia starts going to the office again and keeps that same teddy bear with her because she still hadn't given up hope of Li Yan's return. Being a production director, she wanted to record everything related to Li Yan and make a film on it. She starts this with Li Rang and tells him her plan, and also tells him the title of the film, Tale of the Nine-Tailed. Then she tells Li Rang, "Tell me everything you know about Li Yan," and she records it all. Then we are shown a scene 6 months later, where Jia has finally completed her editing, and it is also her birthday that day. Her dad brings a cake for her, Jia blows out the candles, and her parents give her gifts. Then, Jia's eyes fall on a box kept on the table. In the box, there is a wedding dress that Li Yan had bought for her before he died, because that day in the restaurant, Jia had whispered something like a marriage proposal in Li Yan's ear for her birthday. Then Jia is sitting in the park reading Li Yan's letter, in which Li Yan had written, "You must have liked the wedding dress. I don't know who will be standing with you when you wear the wedding dress, but I already hate your future husband," reading which Jia cries loudly. Meanwhile, Li Rang is still trying to bring Li Yan back to life. Jia is in the park when Li Rang comes there and tells Jia, "The judge of the afterlife is coming," and we see that he has already arrived there. He says, "I am the king of darkness and am the last of the 10 judges in the afterlife office." He says, "We handle cases related to reincarnation." Then he shows Jia a small bag which contains a fox bead. Jia asks, "Can Li Yan come back with the help of this?" The judge says, "There's no need to be so excited. I came here because Talupa had repeatedly called all the judges requesting them to bring Li Yan back." Then he says, "Jia, you must know that if you want something, you have to give your most precious thing." Jia and Li Rang get ready for this deal. The judge turns the sand clock upside down and asks them to bring that thing, here, Talupa, about King of Darkness's arrival. Here Jia tells the judge, "My most precious thing was Li Yan himself, but now he is not here. So now I only have his memories. I can give only that." But the judge refuses this deal. The judge says, "Jia, you have one more thing that Li Yan gave you, and that is your remaining life." Jia gets ready to give her life, but Li Rang stops her and gets ready to sacrifice his life instead of Jia. Then everyone goes to Li Rang's grave and cries a lot remembering him. Even though Li Rang and Jia always used to fight, there was definitely a concern for each other in some corner of their hearts. In the next scene, Jia finishes her work and comes out of the office. Just then, it starts raining. Jia starts running, but her colleague comes and stops her and gives her a red umbrella. Jia is surprised to see it and asks, "Who gave this?" He says, "Someone gave it a little while ago. He left it there to be given to Jia." Jia understands that it is Li Yan's umbrella, so she runs, drenched, and sets out to find Li Yan, and sees Li Yan standing on the other side of the road holding a black umbrella. Seeing him, Jia can't believe that it is Li Yan himself. Jia asks, "Are you really here?" To which Li Yan answers, "Yes." She says, "Then why aren't you running to me?" To which Li Yan explains, "Now I am not who I was before." Then Jia runs and hugs him and says, "Now I will not leave you until death." After that, at home, Jia tells Li Yan all the things about how much she missed Li Yan. She holds his hand and asks, "Is this really a human hand?" Li Yan answers, "Yes." Then they both start kissing. Meanwhile, Li Yan watches all the recordings that Jia had made in his absence. And in the end, when he sees Li Rang, he gets very upset. Then Shinjo shows Li Yan Li Rang's last video message. In it, Li Rang says, "I am giving payback for your message," and then says some emotional things. He says, "In the next life, I want to meet my brother again." Seeing this, Li Yan misses him and cries loudly. After that, Li Yan goes to meet Talupa. Both are very happy to see each other. Li Yan says, "I have come to meet you for the last time because now I have become a human, and humans are not allowed in the afterlife immigration office. After that, finally, the moment comes when Lee Yan and Jia get married. They are both very happy. Now a scene a few years later is shown. Lee Yan is sitting in the park when a child riding a bicycle loses balance and falls. Lee Yan goes to pick him up and sees that it is Li Rang, who has been reincarnated. Li Yan lovingly strokes him and says, "Next time you fall, try to get up by yourself." Li Yan picks up his bicycle, and Li Rang says, "Thanks," to him and leaves. Now Jia finishes her work and comes out, where Li Yan is waiting for her. She runs and clings to Li Yan, and they both leave for home. In the car, Jia tells Li Yan, "Today I saw a strange old man who was wearing a mask, and the strange thing was that the mask was not coming off his face at all." Li Yan immediately understands that he was the spirit of misfortune who comes in the new year of every century and spreads bad luck in people's lives. Then at night, when Jia is sleeping, Li Yan gets ready and again takes that red umbrella and sets out. Outside, that same spirit of misfortune is spreading bad luck. Just then, Li Yan calls him from behind, and we see that Li Yan's umbrella turns into a sword. And Li Yan still has his fox powers, and with this drama ends right here.